Welcome back. As we said in our intro, we are going to shed more light on the very important meetings which took place yesterday in Nairobi in Kenya with the participation of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Well, it was the African Union fifth mid-year coordination meeting which gathered a number of African heads of states, heads of governments, and they tackled many vital issues regarding the African continent, economic integration, the climate change, the most important elements of our economic ambitious plan for the best interest of Africa and the African peoples. To shed more light on this, we are very much delighted to have with us my dear guest live here in the studio, His Excellency Ambassador Ayoub Mahmoud Ayoub, former Commercial Minister. Thank you very much for being with us.
Good morning to you and to the viewers.
Well, sir, yesterday President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi was wearing two hats. Well, of course, the presidency of New Partnership for Africa Development's NEPAD and the UN Climate Change Conference. In addition to, of course, I would be that proud to say the real position of Egypt in Africa, the real return of Egypt to its strategic depth. But to shed more light on NEPAD first, because President Sisi laid out Egypt's 5 priorities of its presidency, and we are going to tackle them one by one. First, a speedy completion of the second 10-year plan for the African Development Agenda 2024-2034. We are talking about 10 years as if it is 10 days. And working together for the best interest of the African peoples, because we do not have the luxury of wasting time. How do you see this as a first priority?
This is an important step in creating and cementing the economic integration between the countries of the African continent. We have 53 countries in Africa. The population 1.5 billion, more than 1.5 billion people. And when the heads of state, 13 heads of states meet in Nairobi with President Fattah el-Sisi on the top. This means that Egypt is keen to regain its strategic position as the soft power of Africa. Egypt is exerting its influence, its soft influence in the Africa by creating areas of interest where all the parties are benefiting from it. It is a win-win situation, as we like to call it. That is why many media, international media, is focusing on what President Sisi has said. His speech was really the good roadmap for the African countries, what they can do today and tomorrow and until 2024.
The plan will be formulated in full coordination with the regional economic groupings, so it can be a comprehensive document according to which we can evaluate our progress until the year 2034. I'm going to quote all the time from the speech of the president.
It is good to quote in this respect. When Egypt is asking for we know there are several groupings, economic groups and commercial groups in Africa, East, West, South and North and Central Africa. When Egypt is calling for that these groupings should come together and create one group, create an African common market. It is a very important for the African countries themselves and for Egypt, of course. When we see that the economic integration is cemented by the initiative by Egypt, when the President Fattah el-Sisi and Egypt was the president of the African Union, and putting a clear roadmap for the African countries and asking them today to implement it with gradual and pragmatic approach to our needs of today and of tomorrow, of the generations to come. This is one thing. Other thing is that when we see that he is calling for the participation of the private sector, when new generations in creating a common market and a common consensus on what we can do together. We all know that most of the African countries were colonized by Western countries. And Egypt in the 50s and 60s helped all these countries to gain their independence. So for them, Egypt is a country which will support them for gaining their independence. We don't have any hidden agenda like other countries who are trying to create havoc in African countries who are coming from outside Africa, of course. That is why Egypt is in the best position to create this consensus between African countries to have African common market. And
Free
in the
trade
future,
zone, and we
yeah,
are
free
going
trade.
to turn back
Yes.
to the priorities, and
Yes.
it's going to help us to continue with the
Yes.
ambitious plan we have for Africa.
Yes.
Mobilize financial resources for infrastructure within the framework of the African Infrastructure Development Program that includes the navigation link project between the Mediterranean Sea and Lake Victoria and the land road linking Cairo and Cape Town. Those are not dreams anymore. Those are projects to be implemented on the ground.
On the ground. This is what very important, because one of the hurdles which we faced in trade between African countries and economic cooperation was transportation. Easy transportation.
Poor
or
infrastructure.
and poor infrastructure. Now when we have the maritime lines between Mediterranean and East African and West African countries, so we are giving the tools, the means for African countries to come together to create the common front and the common consensus on what we can do together so that it is beneficial to all parties and it raises the standard of living. This is what we are. All these plans and projects and the end goal of it is to raise the standard of living.
Decent life for Africa. This is
Yes.
another initiative
Yes.
to duplicate our Decent Life initiative here, which
Decent
is
life.
really serving more than 55 million Egyptians. But to all Africa, this is another side of the coin which we do
We are
represent.
giving them a model of what we have done in Egypt.
Number 3, intensifying efforts with international partners and financing organizations to find effective solutions to address the accumulated debt crisis. Debt relief mechanisms should be developed through exemption, swap, or easy payment.
All the African countries, I say all, are in debt
Yeah.
at varying degrees, of course. So debt is beneficial when it is well used in the infrastructure, in production, and in agriculture. That is why Egypt is giving a good example. Let us put our hands together to encourage foreign investment, which is very important. When we say encourage foreign investment, before we encourage foreign investment, we should encourage the local investment.
Yep.
Because we have seen many Egyptian investors, who are very pleased for that, are going to African countries to support them and creating presence for the Egyptian know-how and the Egyptian cooperation with the African countries, whether in East Africa, West Africa, and Central African countries.
And
This
to
is a
make
good example.
the maximum benefit from our resources and our wealth, sir, we are rich.
Our resources are abundant. We are trying to make good use of what we have and at the same time cooperating with our partners and the international partners, which is very important for the foreign investors to come and invest in the African country. Egypt is a good example of what we can do with the other investors.
Yes. Accelerate progress of the Continental Free Trade Agreement. This is what we mentioned, but to continue with what President Sisi said, he lauded Nepal's launching of 100,000 small and medium companies to support these companies to integrate into cross-border trade. No more visas.
Cross-border trade
yeah,
and
transboundary.
no more visas, free access to the market, and avoiding the administrative obstacles, which
Yeah.
is very important. There's not just the customs tariffs, but rather, which is very important, the administrative obstacles to trade. When we are removing these obstacles, the intra-countries trade between African countries will double and triple in just 5 years. Why I say that? When we see the trade between European Union countries, trade between Africa and China is more in volume than trade between African countries. So there is a lot which African countries can do together in cooperating with each other as far as trade and better use of the resources, and also better use of the available investment, whether local or regional or international investments. That is very important for the African countries and for Egypt, because Egypt is giving a good example and is lending its hands to the African countries to cooperate
Sure.
for mutual benefit.
President Sisi also praised the launching of a Revitalize Africa initiative to build the capacities of African youth in the area of entrepreneurship. Investing in human resources in our youth.
It is vital. We are investing in the future. When we say we are investing in the youth, we are investing in today and tomorrow. That is why President Huan, he highlighted the importance. It should have a priority at all stages, and let us begin today. And Egypt is giving also another good example when we are seeing that the women and youth are taking a vanguard in many areas and pioneering in many areas, and they have new ideas. They are think outside the box, as we say.
Innovative ideas.
A lot.
Yeah.
Innovative ideas which you have seen and which will be reflected on the standard of living and the way the people live in a better way.
Before going to the next point, sir, when we are speaking about youth, of course, you know that the Executive Council on the ministerial level was held before the summit of yesterday. And His Excellency Moussa Faqih, the EU Commissioner, in his statement, talked about a very vital issue, which is education. And he said that to develop, to modernize, to amend the education system in Africa is very important, not to be based on theoretical knowledge and just to learn by heart and stuff like that, but no, to modernize our curriculum, to modernize the education service we are introducing to our youth to meet with the real practical needs of the African market, of the reality. And I think I cannot separate the well-educated youth from the investment into our youth to be the leaders of the African continent in the very soon future, in the coming period, in few years from now. How do you see this connection between this and that?
When we are focusing on education, this means that we are putting the solid ground for development. No development can happen in any country in the world without proper education and, more important, good education. We need good education. We need that the youth will be better prepared to what the market needs are. When we know the market needs, we can acclimatize our education to what the market needs. Education is very important. It is vital, and investing in education is investing in future, which is vital for the development of any African country and for the all African continent countries. That is a very important point which was highlighted by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Focusing on education, of course, when we say education, we at the same time we mean also the health. But
education and health, of course. Those are pillars. Yes.
It is the two faces of the same coin. Excuse me. What is happening now is that Egypt is expanding infrastructure, expanding its investment in education, and also creating a good platform for the youth to initiate new projects of their own creation and which are badly needed by the market. The market is a very important word. When we are market oriented, this means when we are market oriented, this means that we are coping with the needs of today and tomorrow. The market is the, will I say, is the god of our thinking, if I can say that. Because when we say market, this means that the needs of the people, aspirations, and also what can be done for tomorrow. We are looking, our feet are solid on the ground, but we are always looking for tomorrow, what is needed tomorrow, and how can we prepare for it today through the youth and through the proper and good education, will I say, so that we can benefit from what we are investing in.
And to be that aware of our problems and to be that transparent in dealing with them. We all have changes and challenges in the same time. And to know them in detail, I think that this is the very first step in the right direction.
The challenges are enormous, but our will is more than the challenges. That is very important.
Amen to that, sir. Returning back to Egypt priorities for NEPAD, the priority number 5, mobilizing for the tripartite program of peace, security, and development, which shares its objectives with post-conflict reconstruction and development, which I supervise at the level of the African continent, quote President Sisi. President Sisi called on the NEPAD Secretariat to coordinate in this framework with the Commissioner for Peace, Security and Affairs, the African Union Political Center and African Union Center for Post-Conflict Reconstruction and Development, hosted by Egypt. Cannot be separated. The three cannot be separated. Ever.
Peace and stability are inseparable. It is quite clear. We have seen that in Egypt.
Yes.
When there was no stability, we have seen that at 2011-12, we have suffered from it. And we give a good example how we solved it. When we created stability in the country, this means that we paved the way for a proper development and giving a chance for every individual, will I say, every youth and every national investor to come and support and raise his income by investing in the future and in today's needs. This is very important. So stability is very important for any economic development. No economic development can happen when there is no stability. No investor will come when there is no stability. When we create stability in Egypt and security is ensured from Al Arish, Marsa Matruh to Aswan, this means that we are giving a good example what we can do when we create stability in our country and we try to copy it in other African countries. There are some countries who are destabilized by foreign or local
struggles
powers,
or conflicts.
but that is quite, we can expect it. So let us help them to create stability in their own countries.
Unfortunately, conflicts are always there when it comes to Africa, to Europe. You know, the whole world now is suffering from what's going on in between Russia and Ukraine. And this is a conflict or a crisis which really has its negative impacts on the whole world, food security, energy, you name it. And we hope that this is going to end that soon, inshallah. But, sir, regarding this meeting, we are talking about the 5th mid-year coordination meeting. It's the 5th edition. The first edition, it was in 2019 in Niger under the chairmanship of Egypt to the African Union. And this is another message. We decided, or we launched, we suggested this idea to evaluate what we have achieved, to see what was achieved on the ground, and to see if there are some required amendments, for example, to evaluate the efforts exerted, to know what's our homework, to have these meetings as an added value to the efforts exerted by all the participants, and also to say thank you for those who did the utmost efforts for benefiting the others. How do you see the idea and its implementation on the ground and its fruitful results?
When we are preparing the right roadmap for our development and revising it every now and then, so we are giving the right solutions to our today problems. This is one thing. Other thing is that which is very important. When we are revising it every day, we are seeing Corona, we have seen COVID and so on, we have seen the war in Ukraine. So we are revising it and amending it to face the new challenges which are all over the world. And the African country is in a good position because it has the raw material, it has the big population, it has the big market. It needs a lot investment. It needs a lot, and the process began. It needs a lot in transportation and communication, and it has begun. When we see that 15 Egyptian industries and companies are going to Zanzibar, part of Tanzania, to establish a presence and creating the bridges of cooperation. So we are translating what President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has said in Nairobi and putting it in practice on the same week. Today, in Zanzibar, 15 Egyptian business persons are going to establish presence there and satisfy the need. Why I say Zanzibar? It is a part of Tanzania, and it is a touristic attraction for all over the world. So it is a good hub for business.
Yes,
So
sure.
it is a good choice. When the commercial representation in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, are asking these companies or the industries, would I say, and CEOs are going to establish a presence there in this market, this means that we are lending a hand and at the same time creating or increasing the
Outcomes?
the outcome and inter-African trade, which is very important. We spoke about the inter-African trade, it is small, we are increasing it in practical ways. That is why when we see that 15 companies are going to Zanzibar and they go to the mainland in Dar es Salaam to establish good connections with the government of Tanzania so that ensure the continuity of what they have begun. It is very important for Tanzania, for the inter-African trade, and also for the African development, and it puts in practice what we are speaking about.
No more ink on paper.
It is not
It's
more
not
ink, it
a
is
final communique of a conference and that's it. No, it's a roadmap as you've kindly described it, and it's taking place on the ground, and we are witnessing the implementation, and we are following up all the time what's going on. It's not a month per month, but day by day.
on the same week.
In the very same week.
On the same week, I'm very pleased that it has been done. It is not a coincidence, but it's a plan, of course. It was planned, well planned. We cannot create it within a couple of hours, but rather the preparation from Dar es Salaam, our office in Dar es Salaam, our embassy in Dar es Salaam, and now we see it is in practice. People are going there and creating affiliation to Egypt in some way or other.
Inshallah, we are going to witness more achievements like that, and this is only a start. Well, as usual, I enjoyed our discussion, sir. You're always an added value to our programs. And inshallah, we are going to leave you with a promise to see you again in more episodes of our programs on Nile TV International.
Inshallah, thank you.
We were very much delighted to have with us live here in the studio His Excellency Ambassador Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub, former Commercial Minister. Right after the short break, we are going to return back with more, so stay tuned.